Derivatives. So in this session, what we do is we explain about derivatives. We don't explain in detail, but we just give some definitions of derivatives and some of the commonly found derivatives in the market. Detailed explanations will be given in a different session. So first we'll see the definitions in this section, derivatives. So before that, what exactly are derivatives? That we will try to see. So what is a derivative? That is the first question. Now, derivatives are a financial instrument to be settled at a future date, whose value is from changes in variables such as interest rate, foreign exchange rate, stock market index, credit index, price of securities or goods, or price index. So what is a derivative? It's a financial instrument which is settled at a future date. And what is it that it is based on? What its value is based on is actually variables, which may be interest rate. What is the current interest rate in the market? Foreign exchange rate. What exactly is the foreign exchange rate between currencies? So it may be dependent on that. Stock market index. The stocks, how do they perform in the market? It may be based on the stock market index. The derivative as such would be based on stock market index. Credit index, price of securities of goods, price index, etc. So these are some of the variables on which a derivative is based on, and it's also a financial instrument. Now let us see what are some of the examples of derivatives. So some of the well-known examples of derivatives are forward exchange rate, forward rate agreements, interest rate swap, interest rate futures, foreign exchange forward, currency swap, and currency option. So these are some of the examples of derivatives. Now what we also do is we will just give a brief introduction to each of them, and we will wind up this session. That is all about this session, but we will see what exactly is each of these derivatives. In some brief explanation will be given to know what exactly is the type of derivative which we actually have. So let us start with forward rate agreements. So what's a forward rate agreement? It's a contract that is financial in nature between two parties and exchanges interest payments for a notional principal amount on settlement date from a start date to a maturity date. On settlement day, cash payments based on contract that is fixed and at settlement rate is made by the concurring parties. So fundamentally it's a contract, okay? It is financial in nature, drawn between two parties and exchanges interest payments for a notional principal amount on settlement day. So there's a notional principal amount. There are interest payments based on that. Since this derivative is based on interest, they will exchange interest payments from start date to a maturity date. On settlement day, cash payments based on contract which is fixed and at settlement rate is made by the concurring parties. So depending upon the interest fluctuations, the parties are benefited in some other sense. So that is forward rate agreements. What is an interest rate swap? An interest rate swap is a financial contract between two parties exchanging a stream of interest payments for a notional principal amount on multiple junctures during a particular period. What gets exchanged may involve fixed to floating and floating to floating rate of interest in several occasions. In the case of interest rate swap, if in the case of forward rate agreement, if it was one interest payment which was exchanged, in the case of interest rate swap, there's a series of payments. There's a stream of interest payments for a notional principal amount which gets exchanged between the parties. And it also may involve fixed to floating and floating to floating rate of interest in several occasions. Now, what is interest rate future? Interest rate future is a standardized exchange traded contract with an underlying asset that is an actual or notional interest bearing instrument. So in these derivatives, sometimes there is this notion of underlying instrument. So in one such is interest rate future, where we have a standardized exchange traded contract based on an underlying asset that is actual or notional interest bearing instrument. So based on that, the contract is drawn. So that is interest rate future. We will explain more about this in a later session actually. Understand at least this much. Now what next? What is forward exchange forward? It's an over-the-counter contract that a purchaser agrees to buy from the seller, and the seller agrees the sales at a specified amount of a specified currency on a specified date in future. So forward exchange forward is an over-the-counter contract that a purchaser agrees to buy from the seller, and seller agrees the sales at a specified amount of a specified currency on a specific date in future. The sale takes place beyond the spot settlement date at a known price, which is denominated in another currency known as forward price. Understand that much, okay? That is forward exchange forward. Next, we'll take a look at what is currency swap. Currency swap is an interest rate swap where the two legs of swap are assigned in different currencies and the parties agree to exchange currencies at the prevailing spot exchange rate with an agreement to reverse the exchange of currencies at the same spot exchange rate at a maturity date. So it's an interest rate swap. It is IRS, where the two legs of swap are assigned in different currencies. It will be based on different currencies. Parties agree to exchange currencies at the prevailing spot exchange rate, not Tom, it is not tomorrow's rate, it is one day after rate, prevailing spot exchange rate, with an agreement to reverse the exchange of currencies at the same spot exchange rate at maturity date. So that is currency swap. And finally, we'll see what is currency options. Currency option is a contract where the purchaser of the option has the right but not the obligation to purchase or call option and sell or put option, and the seller agrees to sell or call option and purchaser or put option for an agreed amount of a specified currency at a price agreed in advance. So it's a contract where the purchaser of the option has the right but not the obligation to purchase or call option or sell or put option, and the seller agrees to sell or call option and purchase or put option for an agreed amount of a specified currency at a price agreed in advance. So this is basically definitions of derivatives. We didn't go into details of how exactly each of this works. We'll deal with it in a different session, but understand at least the basics or the basic definitions of these derivatives in money market. Okay. Thank you.